Lizod, I'm the guitarist of progressive metal band Isurus. I'm in our studio in London today and I'm going to show you around my guitar rig. First of all, I should explain a bit behind the concept of the rig and what it actually is basically. It's a 2 amplifier rig. There's a valve amp, Marshall JCM 2000, triple super lead, and Robotron Prophecy preamp, which is a digital kind of modelling preamp, although it does have one valve in it, but it's not really going to make much difference. But basically I use this for most of my clean sounds, and I leave the head permanently dirty and change between clean and dirty. I'm literally switching between these 2 amps and obviously different settings on the Prophecy. The whole thing's controlled by an RJM RG16, which is an amazing device. It's basically a Midi function and audio line switcher. So by pressing one button on my floorboard, which I'll show you in a bit, I can change every single module, amp channels, effects, what pedals I'm using, which amplifier I'm using, or both amplifiers or whatever. Just by hitting one button, it switches everything in one go. The other thing about the rig is that everything's fed through a line mixer, which is a SM Pro Audio PM8. So that's 8 channels basically of passive analog mixer. So I've got in that the output of my Marshall, the left and right from the Robotron, left and right from my Lexicon, which is the stereo effects for this. Yeah, and then another 2 channels for synth, but I won't really get into that yet. This is a close-up in on the rack. It's a 12 unit bi-case. The top's a power conditioner, so that just powers everything and keeps the current and voltage regulated, so it's all clean and helps reduce hum. Then this is one of the first things my guitar gets to, which is a compressor. It's a Drama LX20. And there's actually 2 separate mono channels, or you can use as one stereo one, but I'm using it as two mono channels. And I have one as kind of a light compression, which is used most of the time really, and the other one is a really fast attack, heavy compression, which I use for my really heavy distorted sounds. It just gives it extra gain, extra boost, kind of extra power in the highs and stuff. Then down here, as I said earlier, we've got the Robotron Prophecy preamp, which is great. Lexicon MX 300, which is in the effects end of my Marshall, but then its output's going straight to the mixer, so it doesn't go back through to the Marshall again. It's split, so it's kind of a wet dry wet rig. Then this, the brain, the RG16. So everything's basically plumbed into this. This is the hub. Below that we have pedal drawer, which got a Lady Jewel, which is my amp switching. So I have the Robotrons here, and that one's the Marshall. And then the great thing about this is you can combine them and preset a cut, so you can take a little bit off each, so when they're both combined you don't have kind of double volume effectively. Then I've got a MXR 10-band EQ, which is in the effects loop of the amp, so it's only affecting part of my signal, and I use that in my main heavy guitar sound. It just adds a little bit of extra harmonic content. Then I have MXR Smart Gate, pretty self-explanatory, it's the gate. I have two kind of low gain overdrive pedals. I've got a Ibanez Tube Screamer TS9 on the back there, and a Boo Instruments Tube Screamer clone, which is actually a clone of the 808, and that thing sounds great. Then good old cheap and cheerful but absolutely brilliant Boss DS1, which is a distortion, but I use it as a fairly low gain distortion. Most of my high gain distortion is just the amp distortion effectively. And then immediately below that is the mixer, so that's where I've set all my levels and pans and all the outputs of everything. And then I basically have two XLR leads coming out the back of this, which go to our live rack where we're mixed together and to the PA basically. Below that Korg DTR 2000 tuner. Right at the bottom of the rack is something that's really important and totally changed my life when I got one basically. It's a Palmer speaker simulator, a load box, so I don't have to use cabinets. I can do as well as that if I want to kind of monitor on stage, but this eliminates the need for it. It means I can run my Marshall valve amp totally flat out. I tend to have the power amp on about 8 and my lead and crunch channels are pretty high, so it's really running really loud. But using this I can have that sound that you can only get by cranking the valve really hard. I can get that at any volume. Have a knobs that are supposed to control parameters that would be like the size of your cabinet and the type of microphone you're using, and then kind of high and low harmonic content, so you can really dial it in and get a really sweet, perfect sound basically. You can craft it and you can do that without blowing your head off. Only the stuff I'm using at the time is actually in the signal chain, so you've got the shortest possible distance, you're not going through superfluous stuff that isn't part of your sound. So I'm not using the 3 distortions, they're literally totally out of the signal path. The signal's not running through them off when they're off, which just helps keep everything as clean as possible. So here's how I control everything. Over here's the Roland GR33 guitar synthesizer, so that's what my guitar's plugged into. And then that splits the signal, just the guitar signal and the synth signal. So they come in here, onto my pedal board. Here I've got the Rockshop Midi Mate, which I use to control everything. So this is the thing, by pressing one button, it switches everything in the rack immediately, switches amps, whatever, changes channels, patches. So yeah, that makes the whole thing very simple to control. And then I have these, which is just some extra controls. I have a mute, so I can mute the entire signal there. Here's the Boss loop station RC20. I use that obviously just to loop stuff. Don't tend to use it that much for Isurus stuff, but I may well do in the future. Then I've got Roland EV5, which is a continuous Midi controller for changing generally my delays and reverbs and things. And a wah-wah. And it's a Jim Dunlop Crybaby. I love wah-wahs, but they suck your tone really badly. So I've actually got that. I removed the switch so it's permanently on, and I actually turn it on and off with a Boss line selector over here, so it doesn't suck all the life out of my tone. Just going to quickly show you it switching so you can see how multiple units change at the same time. Very cool. I designed and wired the rig all myself, made all the cables, which took a long time. But that means that every single cable is the right length, the right type, and I'm basically not using too much cable, so it helps save as much tone as possible. I'll put some pictures of the back of the rack so you can kind of see in it. The other main thing about the rig is all my guitars are, or all my main ones, are Midi equipped with the Roland GK. So they will use the GK lead. I can play synthesizers through my guitar. I have one Roland floorboard, which is kind of a controller for this, which always has to be there. But I also use other synths, like we have a Lizod Andromeda A6, and I've used a lot of VSTI soft synths as well. This is my favourite and main guitar. It's a 1970 Gibson Les Paul Standard with the Midi pickup attached. I'm not really going to go into my guitars too much. I might do another video in the future about my different guitars, but this one's my baby. So that's just been a quick kind of overview of my rig. It's a very complicated setup, so it's hard to explain it all really. I may do some other videos in the future and go into different things in more depth, especially the Midi guitar stuff, because it's a really great tool for guitarists, I think, and not so many people tend to use it really. I hope you've enjoyed looking at my rig and hearing me play. Check out Isurus at www.isurusband.com. Check out our YouTube channel, which is Isurus Official. Yeah, thanks very much.